Hi guys, I don't have a tripod today, so if it's a little shaky, it's because I'm holding it up. Now, hopefully my arm won't fall asleep. I just got back from work and I don't want it to get dark, but hopefully I'll have time to tell you this story. I was talking to my friend about this story actually yesterday, and this was many years ago, and I was living with my boyfriend in this really beautiful two-story craftsman home, but it was like right off this main road. So right in front of the house was this main street, and there was always a lot of traffic. And one evening I was driving home and my mom was in the car with me, and all of a sudden I heard this voice that says, "He's not stopping." And I look up into the rearview mirror just in time to see somebody rear end us. And the force of the impact sent us forward with enough momentum that I was able to like drive forward and hook a U-turn and then park right in front of my house. And so my boyfriend came running out because he heard the crash, and then we went inside, and about half an hour later, a woman comes to the door. She saw the car out front. She comes to the door with her 19-year-old son, who's looking really grim, and he was the boy that hit us, and he had just freaked out, and so he drove home, and his mom made him come back, obviously, to make sure that we were okay and to take care of everything. And we were fine. The car was still drivable. It was just smashed up in the back, and my mom and I were fine. We didn't even go to the doctor. But the woman was really, really high strung, and the boy had this really sort of heavy energy. And I remember that he said something that I thought was kind of strange, like an under his breath comment about his mom that kind of gave you the impression that he didn't think she was all there. And I just sort of wrote it off to, a teenager's view of his mom. But anyway, so she didn't have insurance, and she was like, please, please don't call the cops, don't have my son arrested. And I was like, no, of course not. That's fine. We don't have to go through insurance. We can just handle it ourselves. And she said, I don't have any money to pay for it yet, but I'm getting my house refinanced. It's in the process of getting appraised. So as soon as that money comes through, I'll be able to take care of the car. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So periodically she would come by. She wouldn't call. She would just pop over and fill us in kind of in the on the progress of her refi. But every time she came, poor woman, she was super paranoid. She was convinced in some really irrational way that we were going to have her arrested, or I don't know, swindle her somehow. It just became very, very difficult to deal with her. Like nothing I would say seemed to get through to her. And it was just becoming increasingly bizarre. And she didn't want to go to my mechanic. I was like, okay, you can take the car to your mechanic to get a quote. That's fine. So she got the quote, and then she'd come by and say, well, they want me to fix this fireplace on my house, so I don't have the money yet. And then she would just talk on and on about it. But she just seemed kind of really imbalanced. But she was also very loud and very aggressive. And so it started to really stress me out. And eventually, this is about a month and a half now where she keeps coming by. And eventually I start to lose my patience. It kind of takes a lot to push me to the wall, but I finally just lost my patience and I couldn't take it anymore. Not even just with the process, just with her energy. So that one day after she left, my boyfriend said, okay, Vanessa, you're not allowed to deal with her anymore. From now on, I deal with her, which I was really relieved about because he was a very calm, easygoing, laid back kind of person. So I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. So the next time she came over, I kind of quietly just went upstairs, and I was sort of listening to the murmur of conversation downstairs. And all of a sudden I hear my boyfriend screaming and cussing at the top of his lungs. And so after she leaves, I go downstairs like, what happened? And he said, she's crazy. She's absolutely crazy. And I was like, wow, she really pushed him to the wall too, I guess. Anyway, and so we would tell our friends about the situation, and they would all comment on how strange it was, and, poor kid, and blah, blah, blah. And then one day I realized, I told my boyfriend, I think we're perpetuating this energy with her because we talk about it all the time. We talk about it amongst ourselves. We talk about it to our friends. We're just really focused on her being crazy. And I said, from now on, let's not say one more negative thing about her. I said, in fact, right now, I want us to visualize that it's already all taken care of. I just want to feel the relief that we feel now that it's all taken care of and that it's finished, and that how happy we are that it's in our past. And I just made sure that we both really felt that feeling of relief and gratitude that it was all done and all taken care of. And there was nothing, in our interactions that would tell us that this was going to be the case, but it didn't matter. We just visualized the end result of how we wanted to feel and really let in that emotion. And the very next time we saw her, which was just a few days later, she brought the full amount of cash in hand, was super normal, super duper calm, and paid us, and that was the last we saw her. And I remember thinking that it was like one of the most important lessons of my life. It was just a huge gift for me, really. And I felt like she was a teacher of some kind, just a beautiful human teacher. Because what she taught me was that so much of our experience of each other has to do with our expectation of each other. And yes, certainly, she had, I guess, a track record, a pattern that I could have just stayed focused on. I could have just said, well, this is the way she's always been. That's why I think she's this way. But I think we're all so multifaceted, and we all have edges to us that are, less than perfect. Sometimes we feel a little crazy or emotional or imbalanced or whatever. And I think that we really were just perpetuating our experience of her in that negative way. It didn't matter that she showed it to us initially without us expecting it. So anyway, I really learned that you can experience different facets of people depending on your expectation. I was able to use that to really shift my relationship with my dad, that and Neville's revision process. My dad and I now have like a radically different relationship than we had when I was younger, or even as an adult. Now our relationship is the best that it's ever been. It's amazing, really, how much it's shifted. But that's not to say that you should blame yourself if you're not able to experience a different side of somebody. I mean, I was in a relationship once that it felt very intense and aggressive. And I kept staying because I kept thinking, if I could just change my reality or the way that I'm viewing the situation, my experience of this reality will shift. But I was living with the person, and I think sometimes if it's that intense or it's so ingrained in you, or you kind of have this like trigger response of fear, and it's kind of just relentless like that, I think it's really nice to seek some space, physical space, mental and emotional space, whether it's just for part of a day, or if, you can even for, a more extended period of time, a week or more, to just get some time to give yourself room to begin to invest in a new vision of that person. It doesn't mean that you want to do that in order to stay with them, but just to sort of have a different interaction. And I know that he also wanted to be able to interact with me in a different kind of way. But ultimately, I just took myself out of that situation because for me at the time, it was just too intense. I didn't have the room that I felt that I needed to really be able to think about it differently. And I had to learn later on not to blame myself for that, because I thought at the time, oh, I should know better. I should be able to do this. And I've applied it many times in my life. But, sometimes you just have to accept that there may be a bigger picture that you have not wholly grasped. And maybe the purpose of the relationship was something else, and it was successful on those terms. And just because it didn't last, or, because it was difficult, doesn't mean that there weren't gifts for you. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't successful on so many other levels. And it's really, we just blame ourselves so needlessly for so many silly things. Hi! Suddenly I'm in a different place in my room, and the lighting's different. I had to delete some stuff off my phone, and then it got completely dark. But I think I was saying that you don't always grasp, the bigger picture of what the relationship might have meant
right in that moment. And sometimes you may not ever entirely get it, and that's okay too. But yes, I think it's extremely important not to blame yourself if you don't get to experience a different aspect of somebody. Um, but I do like something that Neville Goddard taught in terms of holding a vision of somebody else, or experiencing a different reality of somebody else. He said, for example, if you have a friend, let's say, that's unemployed, you don't ever have to, feel sorry for them. What you can do instead is just imagine that the next time that you see them, they're telling you how excited they are about their new job and all the things that they're going to do now that they have this new job, and what a relief it is. And just feel yourself feeling so happy for them, and relieved on their behalf, and hearing the joy in their voice, and giving them a big congratulatory hug. And when Neville tells this story, it had immediate results. So it's really powerful to hold somebody else in the vision that they would want for themselves, to see them in the best possible way. And lastly, I just wanted to say that voice that I heard when I was in the car right before we got hit that said, "He's not stopping." My mom didn't hear that voice, so it wasn't her. And so I've just decided that it was my guides, and they were just sort of giving me a split second of warning. But it was really great that I didn't actually have my wheel turned into oncoming traffic. And so I didn't actually turn into that oncoming street. I just kind of sailed forward and then did the U-turn. But anyway, I hope you like this story, and I'll talk to you again soon.